Welcome back to Casual Bias Rugby. Who else other than the Leinster boy to talk about the Champions Cup? And obviously we'll cover the Challenge Cup as well. Leinster, Champions Cup. That's 3 in a row. What's it, 4 in 5 years? 4 in 6 years? I'm not even sure.
Four in about 6 years, yeah.
How are you feeling after that? How's the aftermath feeling?
I just don't get how they lost it. Especially Toulouse. Like, look at the last 2 years. We've just mashed Toulouse. They came to Dublin, got 40 points put on them. As soon as it's a final, they just don't win.
It's kind of the same storyline as you and La Rochelle. Finally getting one over La Rochelle. Toulouse finally getting one over you again.
But the season that we finally got one over La Rochelle, Toulouse got one over us. So if we don't get a chance to go win it, we have a new French club to deal with now.
Listen, it's new rugby heritage. Like I've spoken about rugby heritage multiple times.
A lot.
Right? It's South Africa knocking England out of a World Cup, especially in finals when it comes to the playoffs. It is All Blacks winning the rugby championship as per usual. It's Ireland bottling the quarterfinals, and you've got to put Leinster losing Champions Cup finals now there as well. It's ridiculous.
Actually do. It's just, I think what went wrong is that they didn't take their points. You know, they had so many chances to go, kick to goal, get points that way. They would have won the game if they'd done that, but they didn't. They kept kicking to the corner, trying to get tries. Don't know why you do that in a cup final, but they did, and they lost. That's what happened.
Just before we get into the nitty-gritty of the game, obviously you were at the stadium, and like I watched it from home, and the crowd was crazy. It sounded like the atmosphere was wild out there.
Yeah, that's a European Cup final. It's just, like Leinster, especially recently, you know, after the World Cup, fans have just gone nuts. Like, we need trophies. They travel in massive numbers. Like, we were louder than Toulouse, by the way. And bear in mind, Toulouse are known to be one of the best fans base in the world. Like, Leinster always getting shit for not being loud. We literally outvoiced
it's a neutral
Toulouse.
ground, which is even more impressive.
We must have got about 40,000 fans over there. The sport's crazy, and it's not stopping either. Like, it doesn't matter how many finals we lose. Like, the sport just gets better. So.
Yeah, like the previous time we spoke, we said, listen, you're not going to get that crowd at a South African game if you have two teams from outside the country playing. Like, obviously the travel makes it a lot harder, so it's a bit easier for you guys to travel there. Obviously, if there was a South African team, you'd probably get 1,000 South African supporters there. Like, it's crazy because we can't get there. It's just too expensive. But it was a absolute crazy atmosphere. Like, the crowd,
it was nuts.
If I listened to it, it was like all Leinster fans. Like, if there was a decision against Leinster, the boos were crazy. If Leinster kicked over a ball, like over the post, crowd went crazy. It just felt like there was about 100,000 Irish fans in there and like 0 fans from Toulouse. But as you just said, like the French fans were also pretty loud. Now, let's get into the game. Okay. You said you didn't take your points. I won't go as far as to say you guys choked this one. This is not a choke fest.
You can't choke a game you never led. So that's the thing.
Yeah,
but we lost.
Like a lot of people for banter would say you choked it. I wouldn't say you choked it this time. Like, I would have to put respect on your name. It was one of the best finals that I've ever seen. Like, the physicality of it.
Extra time, like all sorts. It wasn't the end-to-end stuff I said it would be. It was a lot more defensive, traditional kind of game. Again, really good to watch. But they're so close. Frawley's drop goal. We need to talk about Kieran Frawley in this at some point, but man, everyone went nuts. We thought it would go over. That just went to the side, and we were like, "Oh, that's it." Then.
Yeah, without having a ton of points in it, I know it ended 22-31, but like a lot of the points were in extra time. But it was such a good game for a low-scoring game, and I mentioned it to you. Like, this has the potential to be a low-scoring game, but an absolute physical warfare. Like the hits that we heard were absolutely crazy. I thought it was a brilliant game of rugby, a great advertisement for the game. Talk to me. We had the debate, Dupont, Gibson Park. Dupont played like a prime flanker. I think he had 5 turnovers.
He had more turnovers than the entire Leinster pack. Not Toulouse. Sorry, Antoine Dupont's the best player ever. I'm calling it. He's still got whatever. 8 years. He's the best ever. I'm saying it now. No player in history can do what he does as a 9, get 5 turnovers in the European Cup final. like that. I think he might win 7th Player of the Year and 15th Player of the Year. I think
Can't
he's
win
going to be the
seventh
first
player of
person
the
to do
year if
that.
you play 2 tournaments. Come off it.
If he wins in Madrid now on Saturday and he wins the Olympics, that's 7th Player of the Year there. He's carried France.
No, because they didn't even win the series. Let's not go into sevens, okay? Because
Yeah,
Argentina blitzed it. Okay, they were
yeah,
by far the best sevens team out there.
yeah. They were
Ireland
good.
were up there as well. I know Ireland was second, but Argentina had a pretty steep lead on them. Yeah. Thing is, like, the only thing that annoys me with the Antoine Dupont is the best in the world. Like, I truly believe he's sensational. He can do literally everything. But the commentators, every single time that guy touches the ball, I that's why he's the best in the world. That's why he's the best in. And I'm like, fair enough. Okay, you think he's the best in the
He is
world.
a
No
bit.
need to say it 10, 15, 20 times a game. Like, obviously, he has been the best in the world, but Adi Savia is now the best in the world. Well, so let's just put some respect on Adi Savia's name by not calling someone else. You can call him the best in the world, but not 20 times in a game. Like, seriously, come off it. Just relax for a bit. Wouldn't you agree?
He is a bit. He's a bit glazed. Yeah, all the time. Like you can't see any post about Dupont without him being the best in the world. There was a video a couple of weeks ago. He did a kickflip on a podcast. I swear I've seen it more times than South Africa lifting the World Cup. He's
Yeah.
just people just love him for some reason.
Yeah, like,
But
he is brilliant. I'm not taking anything away from the guy. He is probably the most talented player in the world. But, like, calm down on it. Seriously, it's getting boring by now.
yeah,
Anyway, this is
but on
not
the
the
debate,
DuPont hate show. You had an absolutely sensational game. But I saw your video on TikTok where you spoke about Kieran Frawley has to be the Leinster 10, right? And he's got the potential, obviously, to start at 10 for Ireland as well, seeing that position isn't really fixed as of yet. So you stand by that from the start? Is it like you don't think Ross Byrne is that guy, or do you think it's just a big game thing, or do you just think Frawley is that much better?
I don't like saying Ross Byrne isn't the guy because you have to step into Johnny Sexton's shoes. Like no one can really do that. But just the last 2 finals, I just don't think Ross has been the same kind of game leader that Kieran Frawley is when he comes on the pitch. Look at that La Rochelle game. Kicked the winning penalty from halfway line. Like nailed that. Like I just
Mm.
can't see Ross Byrne doing that in a high pressure moment when Kieran Frawley's a high pressure moment, test level player. He wants to play 10, but he's not getting the opportunity. And I think he's going to leave Leinster if he doesn't get the opportunity at 10. So
Yeah,
I'd
I don't.
start in 10.
I don't know. I don't like Ross Byrne kicks well, but other than that, I don't see him do much on the field. Like, I rate Frawley a lot higher than I'd rate Ross Byrne. I'm not trying to hate on the guy, but it's like
Mm.
he just feels like a normal 10 that can kick pretty well, like a guy that
Especially
just
this
tries to
season.
control the
It's
game
just
with a boot. Yeah.
like this season, it's just only been Gibson Park, really. He's been the main playmaker, where you need 2 playmakers if you're going to win a final like that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, fair enough. I saw someone commented on Sapphirs Unscripted, which is obviously like the other podcast that I run with 2 other guys. And there was a comment because obviously we had an episode come out, well, Monday morning, because this is going out on Tuesday. And they said, listen, Jock Ninaber is a brilliant coach, but he might have just destroyed Leinster in terms of he focused so much on the defense, the
I
sharpness and
think
the
so.
fluidity in the attacking game has gone lost. Would you agree with that?
I do think so. I think too much has changed. Now, it's either Jack was doing it or I don't know. They tried to change, as a coaching staff, they tried to change up how they're going to play, and it just didn't work. Look at the good games Leinster had this season. The games where you went, oh, wow, that's a world class team. The Bulls back in March, sorry, La Rochelle in December, and then La Rochelle again in April. And those were the only really 3 outstanding games.
Yeah.
The rest of them, they've been scraped wins. They've lost a lot more games this season than they would have.
So
They
you
they
haven't really
fixed
played
something
in
that
full
wasn't
strength
broken.
teams. So you got to remember that.
Hmm?
Like, you haven't really played full strength teams a lot. Like, or you
Yeah,
haven't fielded a full strength team.
I think that's another thing. It's good to rest players, but it's not good to have them play 10 games a year. You know, you need to play a bit more to stay fit.
Yeah,
Because look at
that
the
is
URC.
actually an issue. Like, we as the South African teams, we talk about like Leinster squad depth, and it's admirable, and we also want that. If we actually want to compete, we need squad depth. But the
Yeah,
issue that Leinster is running in is they're trying to balance out the games for each one, but it feels like there's a bit of lack in chemistry every now and again with the guys that they've played the same amount of games, but they haven't played with the same guys. So there's just no fluidity. And I wouldn't necessarily throw it on Jock because we've seen the good running rugby that the box also can play. Obviously, I have to compare it to the box because that's where he coached most recently. And look at the box from 2019, which was coached through Rassi. Obviously, Jock was there as well. But Jock was the head coach for the 2023 team that ran the ball a lot more. We scored a lot more tries. Yes, obviously, we still had a good kicking game and a good physical game. That's what we are based around. But there was a very good running game. So I wouldn't say Jock as all of a sudden killed the sharpness and killed the fluidity of the team. I think that comes from pure chemistry. If you look at this Toulouse team, how many times have I seen the same combinations the whole time? When Intermark came back from injury, they knew they want to play him in the final. They gave him a couple of games in a row. They put Dupont there, Blaking on at fullback. Their centre pairing stayed unchanged. Their wing pairing stayed unchanged. Like it was a lot more unchanged than the likes of Leinster's. And I think that's where they could have possibly won the game.
If you look at the two teams and what was really the killer for Leinster is that their chemistry wasn't there. They were dropping balls, they weren't running the right places. Where Toulouse, everything was perfect, and we would have won the game because I think we were playing the better rugby when we were playing well. But we didn't, and they just haven't been playing together enough in the recent months to be doing that. They've only played together, that team, in the Champions Cup knockout stage, which every game is a different kind of opposition.
Yeah, I mean, both teams played extraordinarily well. Andrew Porter, wow, what a game. He absolutely smashed, who was the three of Toulouse? He smashed him in the scrums. Dan Sheehan with a little step on Dupont. That was a brilliant piece of rugby because obviously stole the ball from Dupont, or there was an interception or whatever. Dupont tracks back and makes the turnover again. Blaking on also chasing back, making the crucial tackle. It's just like there was a bunch of guys from both teams that really had absolute standout performances, like that type of performance that should win you a final. It's just for the one team it did, and for the other team it didn't. And I couldn't think of a more fair result after 80 minutes than the 15-all draw. Like it felt like that deserved a draw and had to go on even further. But you know why Toulouse should have won that game? Because Lebel was tackled out from Jordan Lama. And I don't know why he didn't throw that ball inside because there was no cover defense, nowhere near him.
Yeah.
He could have just popped it inside and scored. Like that would have sealed the game. That was sealed, done. I think that would have given them a 10-point lead with 5 minutes to go. Or something like that.
Yeah. Lebel was amazing.
That was stupid.
Yeah, they had an amazing game. They've had an amazing tournament, I'm not surprised they won. I'm not happy they won. But when you're gonna make mistakes like that in a final, not take your points, you're just not gonna win. That's what happened to Leinster.
Okay, but I'm gonna give you the floor now because I know you have something juicy to say. Is it about Matthew Carley?
He was so quick to give Toulouse everything. Toulouse second, penalty Toulouse.
Just before you go, I know people hate talking about refs, but on this channel, I've always said I want accountability when it comes to refs. People hate us talking about the ref, but I think it comes down to accountability. I'll give credit to guys that have good games. I've given credit to guys that have bad. I've slandered guys that have bad games because if you're in a workplace, you have to be like refs make mistakes. I get it, but keep them accountable. I want a 5-minute press conference with a ref after the game, just like you talk to your captains, just like you talk to the coaches and stuff, asking the big questions like, why was that decision made? Now, I don't fully agree with what Leinster's about to say, but I'll give him the floor to say it.
Every time Toulouse got a penalty, everything instantly, penalty Toulouse. Every decision went their way. As soon as it was Leinster's turn, Josh Van der Veer, that tackle, very dodgy tackle there, nearly went over horizontal, nothing. Had to go to TMO every single time he wanted to give Leinster something. He was just so slow to give Leinster stuff. He gave Toulouse stuff straight away. He missed forward passes that they did. They had to go back a couple of phases. It was just awful. And I hate to say that about refs because I watched the Whistleblowers documentary. They get a tough time. But when you mess up the biggest game in club rugby like that, and biggest game in the Northern Hemisphere, you have to be held accountable.
Was he better than Jaco Peyper last year?
No. Like Piper made a couple of bad decisions. That's why I didn't like him. But he just ruined the game. I just.
We spoke about it on Safas, right? And
Mhm.
we actually thought Matthew Carley had a decent game. Like, he blew some calls weird, but the big decisions that could actually affect the game, he made the right call. The TMOs were brilliant in terms of
Yeah.
taking their time to make sure that the correct decision is made. Because if they rushed that Josh van der Vleer's try,
Yeah.
that would not have been awarded a try. Like, I'm telling
I'm
you now,
really
that would
surprised
be,
he gave that as well. Like I was 100%
but it's the
thinking, oh,
correct
he's not going to
decision
give this now.
because
It was a correct
I
decision.
like the fact that they
Exactly.
just answered the question. Like, the ref said the ball's over the line. I just want to see if there was a grounding. The TMO didn't try and convince him otherwise or anything. Like, if there was convincing evidence, yeah, it was short of the line and then could have been held up. The TMO didn't say, listen, you might want to, let me just hang on. They just said, okay, that's what you want to know. This is what we've got. Try. We keep the on-field decision.
Yeah.
And obviously, he made a couple of mistakes. And I found it weird, like, even though it was legal, but all the arm tapping, we know it's legal. You can't slap the ball, right? But I've never
Yeah.
seen so many arm taps in a game. Usually they just blow that offside, right? Even if the guy wasn't even offside, because they don't allow it necessarily. He let it go. I think he let the game flow pretty nicely. Yeah, maybe here and there a couple of mistakes. But I also think
Yeah.
he realized it was a final. I'm not going to send guys off for big hits, just like James Lowe should have been a yellow, and the red should have been
Yeah.
a red. The try should have been a try. There you go. Like that. That's the big defining decisions, and those were all correct.
But it's just my issue is how quick he was to get to lose everything and how long it took him for Leinster. It just
Yeah,
doesn't feel like it was a fair ref game. Because if that was a fair ref game, he would have taken the same amount of time to Rooks at the scrums, but he didn't.
I think there
That's
was
why.
one
That's
point
why
where
I'm pissed off
I
about it.
think you guys had a scrum in your own 22, and you ran the ball out. You ended on the what's it, the 10-meter line after like the 50, and he blew he didn't call advantage over, and he went all the way back to the 22. I hate that. Like,
I
that's
hate
one thing
that.
that they
Yeah.
have to go. Like, do you remember the days where it was just, were you even born? Where it was like, okay, you've gained 10 to 20 meters, advantage over. Or you've played, let's say, 4
I do.
phases,
I do.
advantage over. Where now it's like, if you get a penalty advantage 5 meters out, the guys just pick up and drive, hope for the best. And then he comes back after 15 phases for a penalty.
Yeah, and they're so inconsistent with it as well. They might shout, they might do a chip and then he goes, "Oh, advantage over," but they can play 50 phases and they'll still be advantage.
Yeah.
It's just one of the things they need to change. But no, I don't like to criticize the refs openly, but that was just one of the worst performances I've ever seen. He
Yeah.
needs to be held accountable for. I
Obviously,
wouldn't put him on test
we as
matches this year.
Safas, yeah, we as Safas know we get scrutinized for blaming the
Yeah,
ref, and even though it isn't necessarily all of us, like, you get it a lot. Like, it is true, we do blame the ref a lot because we truly feel aggravated by refs sometimes. So we like bringing up that other
yeah,
people also
same.
blame the ref, and sometimes I know fans don't like it, but sometimes a ref is to blame. I'm not saying he's to blame for this game necessarily, because I just told you got the big calls right, but I feel it's fair that you still feel aggrieved that there was certain decisions. Obviously, you were in the losing team. If you were in the winning team, you'd feel a bit otherwise, because you would focus
Yeah,
on the fact that you actually won the game. And that's always like it. The same with when we blame a ref. We won't blame the ref as if we actually went and won the game. But overall, surely you're still happy with the tournament as a whole, the way that you guys have played. Your focus will obviously go onto the URC now. Surely you guys go full strength every game now in the URC. You have to at least get a trophy
I,
in these, because obviously in the last 2 years you haven't done one, and you don't want to go 3 years without a trophy, because then it's like, is Leinster really that threat?
yeah. Well, I like the Champions Cup final. Good trip to London, but they need this URC. They really do. Leo Cullen needs it if he wants his job. I feel a lot of the play, like Ross Byrne, for example. I think he definitely needs this URC if he wants to be 10 next season. It's just,
Yeah,
yeah, they can't, with that team, you just can't go 3 years dropping this.
yeah.
It's
And
just something's
the thing
going
is, just
seriously
like,
wrong if you are.
you didn't do yourself any favors with, like, not getting that top position, because the Bulls might do it, and then it's time for the Bulls will know they need revenge on Leinster for the hiding they got at the
They're not
RDS.
Bulls. I just don't believe in Bulls. It's just the one team. It's like you win at your stadium and you don't win anywhere else. It's just
Yeah, well,
I'd rather not go down to
if
South
you
Africa
guys
for
play each
playoff
other, it's
games.
going to be at Loftus. So you better pack your
Yeah,
bags and be ready.
yeah,
Because
it
I'm
is.
telling you
But
now, this will not be the same as the ODS.
no,
That ball
it won't.
scene.
I know it won't be. It's going to be a tight game. But like I said, Leinster need this URC. They need to win the league again. They haven't done it in like 3 years. Excuse me. And a lot of like Leo Cullen, I just think he needs his trophy if he wants to have his position in future.
Yeah.
And
Obviously, next season
but
he'll be
they
a
will go
lot
full
better.
whack.
With Ringrose out this whole season, you kind of felt like you lacked some quality in, for instance, the centre pairing. But if you have,
Yeah,
let's say
definitely.
Ringrose was out again, but you have Geordie Barrett as well, running Geordie Barrett and Henshaw, you sorted. Or even Geordie Barrett
that's
and
the other thing I don't
Ringrose.
get. Like, why we don't need a Geordie Barrett kind of player. Like, a 10 would have been useful, but then we have good 10s. We just don't need to be signing big players now.
Yeah.
Now, I guess
before we move on, I wanted to hear your opinion on James Lowe's game. I thought he was horrific.
It's just when you're a winger and you're coming up against that fast loose defense, it's hard to get through, no matter how good you are. Like, I don't. He's had better games, When you have such a less good performance and you have like the likes of him against Larshell or
He
against
couldn't
Northampton,
believe he got sent off. That was the
I
most
couldn't believe it either.
blatant
It
yellow
was
card
such a
you'll see in
close
your
tap,
league.
like it was 2 fingers or something. He was in fairness trying to go for the ball, and they have to be consistent.
Yeah, but
They have
arm
to
in
give him
the
the
air,
yellow card.
like it is a blatant yellow card. Like he knew exactly what
Yeah,
he was doing.
he
Like
was. Yeah,
you can't even tell me
he's
his
a bit,
hands were
he's a
in a
character,
natural position. It's here up in the air. Like what did
Yeah,
he think he's going to do? There's no attempt to catch that ball. Like that was
it's
just
funny.
silly. Did
He's
you
a
want to
character.
add anything onto this game before we move on to the Challenge Cup?
What can you do now? I do think the attack needs to be better. The 10 needs to be better. Like, I don't know if Ross can step up his game for next season, or maybe Frawley can get a go at 10. But I think the 10 is the missing link in that Leinster team. It just doesn't flow well.
Yeah,
But
fair
other than
enough.
that, it was a tight game. If it goes to extra time in a rugby game, like, players don't prepare for that. So
Yeah.
it's really
Well,
not
credit to
good
Toulouse,
side.
because obviously they had a couple
Credit
of
to
injuries,
Toulouse.
a
They were
couple of guys
class.
that had to play from the start till extra time. Like Peter Aki went off very early. Who's the center of Argentina that plays for them? He had to play the whole game. Antoine Dupont played the whole game. Like credit where it's due. Obviously, they created new rugby history in terms of winning the trophy the most times, extending that lead. But going into the Challenge Cup, and we said this could be a close game. Well, could be a close game.
Was not.
And obviously, what can make it a bit tighter is the fact that Gloucester could see this as a home game because it's obviously played at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. The Sharks dominated. They
They're absolutely
absolutely
dominated. Fairness, I
butchered
picked them to win this trophy from the start of the season. It was one of the only predictions I actually got right. But you
Did you
knew going
really?
into that. Yeah, I had them as Challenge Cup winners. I think they're a Challenge Cup quality team, and they are now. Next season, they sealed that. But
I can't believe
Ferguson
it.
dominated Gloucester,
13th in the
dominated
URC goes to the Champions Cup. Like seriously.
Like what are they, like 13th or 14th or?
Yeah, 13th.
It's
outrageous. Yeah,
I'd be
but
so annoyed if I'm going to be months like Ulster, Benson next week, and they've suddenly been taken out of Champions Cup because of these guys who've been crap all URC.
yeah. But the Sharks will be better next season. I'm telling you
They
now.
will be.
Like
They've got too much talent not to be.
There was a big question mark around John Plumtree's job, right? And he probably gave himself a bit more of a lifeline to actually keep his job now, because you can't fire him off or sack him after he's won European trophy, right? Like it's
A bit like
history
Eric
now.
Ten Hag in the
But I
FA
don't
Cup
think it's
there,
going to be
yeah.
a long, hey?
Bit like Eric Ten Hag in the FA Cup there. Like, he's not getting sacked. They can't sack him after winning the European trophy.
Yeah, definitely not. But I don't think they'll let another season like this happen. So they'll see, listen, if it has to go better immediately, or we're giving you like 5 games, and if it doesn't go as planned, you're gone. Right? That's the way that I think it will happen. Because obviously it's getting massive names in already. Like they've already signed Andre Esterhuizen coming back. They've already signed Trevor Nyakane coming back. So that's absolutely
taken
massive. I
Jason
wouldn't be
Jenkins off
surprised if
us.
Jasper Wiese also shows up there, because obviously he's leaving Leicester Tigers now. But what was great about this game from our perspective was it looked like the South African boys finally realized, okay, we're actually playing for silverware. Like they live and breathe for silverware, the South African boys. I'm talking about the Springboks, obviously. Eben Etzebeth, game of his life. Vincent Koch. I've never seen a prop play the way that Vincent Koch played that game. Masuku once again. Grant Williams had a good game. Fussy, as always, just there. Like overall, the Sharks just completely dominated this game. After the first 10 minutes, I'm not sure if you saw the first 10 minutes. They didn't get out of their own 22. They were defending for their lives. Probably had to have 2 tries scored against them, but defense kept them in the game. After the first 10 to 12 minutes, finally got out of there with 0 points conceded. Then you already know, okay, these boys are up for it, because that type of defense just gives you so much of a boost.
It does, yeah, and I just couldn't see anyone else win this tournament except them. Especially, what do you think about the Challenge Cup as a tournament? We have second from bottom in the Premiership versus the fourth from bottom in the URC. Like, is it really that? Can we consider this a major trophy for them? I think it's good.
I like it in terms of giving exposure to the teams that don't necessarily get all the exposure. So, for instance, for the likes of Benetton, it would be massive, right? Because it's almost their gateway to get into the Champions Cup, for instance. They have a European trophy to play for, and it wouldn't be far-fetched to say Benetton can win this thing. For the Cheetahs that only play in the Currie Cup and that, like the Cheetahs, that's a massive thing for them because they actually play European rugby. Some of those guys aren't on B contracts. Some of them do part-time work here and play rugby. So that's a massive financial boost to them. It gets teams that need it more exposure, and that's why I like it. Like obviously, it's not close to the Champions Cup, but for instance, just the Lions, it would even be massive for the Lions, giving them that financial boost. Because obviously, after this season, the Lions have had a very good URC. I would not be surprised if 3, 4, 5 of their players gets like signed because they can't keep them financially. You have to give them massive contracts now to keep them. That's how well they've been playing. Otherwise, the bigger teams like the Sharks, the Bulls, and the Stormers could just come in and say, here's the paycheck, come to us. We'll pay you out. We'll break the contract for you and you just come and play for us. Because that's usually what happens with the smaller teams. They get swamped as soon as they start playing good rugby.
They do.
That's exactly what your team does to everyone. Like, you would agree.
No, we don't. Oh, no. I'm not having this now. Robbie Henshaw, in fairness, he's from Leinster, but he did go to Connacht. Craig Darryl, he's from Mayo. But no, Leinster are a homegrown team. Like, we don't go robbing players off other provinces.
Yeah, you just spend massive money on people. I mean, Jordy Barrett.
We got Jordy Barrett. He's a 6'1".
Literally taking one from your rivals. Erge Snyman, big bucks. You know,
that's funny, yeah. That in fairness, is a bit of a spender, but Jordy Barrett's still a sabbatical deal. We're definitely a homegrown team. And that's why I like the club so much, like they don't need to be like the French teams.
Yeah,
signing
I'm
these
just
big
taking
South
the
African
piss.
names.
I know you mentioned it previously that you guys are a bunch of boys from like the Leinster Academy that have just like come through and stuff. But overall, I just to finish off on the Sharks game, they totally dominated this final from start to finish. I won't get into it too much because obviously you don't know a bunch of the Sharks names in depth and whatever. But once again, that Masuku, you've probably heard of him, the 10 of the Sharks.
I know most of them. Yeah, like they were
ridiculously good. Yeah,
I think now with Masuku, they could make top 8 in URC next season. Like Masuku is really good. Playing for the Wales
game. They actually want to play. Yeah, of course. They should have been with this team on paper. They should be contending for the title. I'm not fighting like
they should be. They should be. Who have they got? And Pimpy and Banambi.
South Africans.
They've got
Oxenche, Bongi Banambi, and Vincent Koch. Then they've got
that's their front row. Eben Etzebeth.
Exactly.
Then Masuku, Grant Williams. They've got so much. They can't win stuff.
Vincent Chuka, Grant Williams, Masuku. They've got Lucanio Am, Makazolo Mapimpi, Apelile Fassi, and then Werner Koch. I mean, that you want to tell me that team?
That team isn't even top 8 in the moment. It's just wild.
Yeah.
Just,
and the
what's happening?
scoreline flat is Gloucester. Let's not beat around the bush. They scored 2 tries at the end because the Sharks decided let's just try and smash everyone instead of defending. But anyway, we'll wrap it up there. Hopefully you don't cry for too much longer. Better luck
we
next
got
year.
URC to win.
Remember, now for every season that you don't win it, you can just extend that rugby heritage. We love a bit of a rugby history.
Heritage.
Make some more history and say you can be the first team ever to lose 4 finals in a row. Because I mentioned it to you, we spoke over the phone, and I said you could be the first team ever to lose 3 finals in a row. Don't butcher this one, and you didn't. You made me proud, and I love that. Do you have any final words?
Double next season, boys. Double next season. Let's go.
This for 3 seasons in a row, and I've not seen a single trophy. But anyway.
URC. Come on, boys. Come on, boys. Yeah. See you. Thanks, everyone.